Yeah, I think I checked this over pretty carefully. Okay, so most people are in good shape. One person needs to get down there and talk to them. You know, this is where we have people who are, as I always say, at the point of no return. So that person needs to talk to your reading center teacher, your reading lab teacher. Okay, because remember, they will drop you if you don't catch up down there, and you'll be automatically dropped from here. Okay, so come and check that during the break if you want. Okay, so on the homework that I'm going to give you for this weekend, right? We are now at a point where I can just put this list up here with no annotations on it, and you understand what it means, right? So this is what you're going to be responsible for. I don't know, actually, you see it. For the homework over the weekend. You're going to determine the topic by doing what? How do you determine the topic?
What was the question?
How do you determine the topic of a paragraph? What do you look for to determine the topic?
The main idea.
No. Sandra?
Connecting words.
Repeating words
The
within the
words
paragraph,
that are
and that will help you
repeated or
make the
referred
decision.
to most often.
Of course.
All right. If you guys don't notice, get your notes
Sure.
out. This should be in your notes, right? Okay, then you're going to phrase the topic. What's the little trick that you use to check to make sure you're phrasing the topic correctly? This paragraph is about, okay? Yes, Sandra, what were you going to say, Sandra?
I was going to say the same thing. Try to find the
Okay.
topic and put that in a complete
Yes.
sentence.
Well, wait a minute, you're jumping ahead. Phrasing the topic is, this paragraph is about a thing or things. Now, on the homework I just handed back, I accepted some hows. This paragraph is about how bison survive. But I wrote a note to a lot of those people and said, try to not put the topic into a phrase, okay? Because that is dangerous. The more you're writing down for the topic, the more likely you are to recognize a complete sentence. So we don't want the topic to be a complete sentence. So think in terms of a thing or things. This topic is about bison, which is one thing, it's a breed of animal or whatever, a species of animal, and survival, which is a thing, okay? If you start saying how, I'm afraid you're going to get into how bison survive because people were too lazy to hunt them. That's not the topic, that's the main idea. And at this point in this list, it's important that you keep those separate, okay? So the topic is, so again, if you don't have this written down, now is the time to put it down in your notes. But I think you all have it somewhere because I told you to write it down the first time we had it up here. So the determining the topic, finding out what the topic is looking for the thing or things that's referred to or repeated most often. Phrasing the topic is this. Somebody asked me last hour, do I have to write this part of it out? No, you do not. And in fact, I would prefer that you didn't. But if that's what helps you, if you need that to do it, then that's fine, okay? Just make sure that what you fill in here, and here I'm going again to my little colors, if I can find them. This is a thing. Oh, I don't know what to do with my red one. Okay, I'll find it and put it in there. Okay, this is a thing or things. Okay, now how do you put the main idea in your own words? So at this point, we're no longer choosing from Lorraine Fleming's sentences. You're going to How do I do that? What's the test for that? What's the test for that? Putting the main idea in your own words? Nobody's looking at your notes? What's the test for number 3?
The main idea in your own words.
Okay.
In your own words.
No, there's another little test like this that you should have written down.
Thing or thing out.
Yes. This paragraph is about, and this is remember that? Remember, I can't let you guys out of this class unless you prove to me that you can do this. That's the rule now, okay? So you better be able to answer these questions. And if you can't answer them, you better be able to find them in your notes, okay? Okay, what do I mean by repeat steps if necessary?
You read the paragraph every time the topic, so you don't feel like.
Okay, so if you have a topic that is not correct, and like we said, go ahead and write something down, you can always cross it out. But if you're reading a paragraph and you say, the topic of this is Mary Surratt's ghosts, remember that one? That was the first one we saw that was real easy to get the topic mixed up. Then you go back and say, what is this telling me about Mary Surratt's ghosts? And you realize it's not telling me a whole lot, okay? Then you need to go back and say, maybe I have the topic wrong. Maybe I need to approach this again and look again, okay? So this is a thing or things. And this is a complete sentence. Okay. When you are reading your assignments in your content classes, okay, after you get out of this class or whenever, and you come to the first page of your 6 chapters that you have to read in your sociology class or your history class or your political science class, and you're reading along and you understand exactly what it says, you don't have to do this, okay? But if you have this 3-chapter assignment in one of these classes, and you open the book and look over the first couple of pages and then realize, I have no idea what I just read. Has that ever happened to anybody?
Yeah.
Okay. Then you go back and apply these strategies. Okay. If you understand what you're reading and you're able to take notes and you know that when the midterm in that class comes and you can go back and review your notes and understand what you have, you're fine. Okay. But if you're having trouble making a list of things, if you're having trouble seeing what's going on, if you come to another paragraph and it says, as the last paragraph said, and you think, I have no idea what the last paragraph said, right? Then you need to apply a strategy. And that's what my job is here in this class, is to offer you these different things you can do to try to figure out what you're reading, because you're supposed to be learning that stuff. And you can't learn it if you don't understand what it says, okay? So this is something you can apply. And I think you will do it automatically. In fact, I think some of you already are doing it automatically, which may be part of the problem. You're having trouble putting it into those words, okay? Of exactly what we're supposed to do, okay? The teacher speak word for that is that it becomes, this strategy becomes generative, okay? So that's one of the things that teachers, that I am tasked with doing in here. is to get you to know this stuff so well that it becomes generative. What does that mean?
Automatic?
Yeah, automatic, exactly. Yeah, that you are generating, that when you open a book, your brain is automatically generating these steps. And you don't really have to think about it. You glance it over and you say, yeah, I see this name repeated a bunch of times, so probably this is about Thomas Edison, okay? Then you ask yourself, okay, what's it telling me about Thomas Edison? It's telling me that he didn't only invent the light bulb, he invented the electric chair. So this is, I hope that you guys are seeing this with some of the reading you're doing. That you're looking, the task of looking for reversal transitions, addition transitions, lists, and that kind of thing is already generative. Okay, yeah. Okay, so that's another word you can put in your vocabulary list. Okay, so for the homework that I'm going to give you over the weekend, same kind of thing as we have been doing. And I was interested in the number of people on the midterm evaluation that said, no, you didn't look at the syllabus before and after class every day. And I made a note on some of those people's. But I think in some ways, once we got past the midterm, it's pretty, you can pretty much tell what we're going to do, right? On Mondays, we work on the homework. On Wednesdays, we have the vocabulary reading ready. So, yeah. The only trick is that, remember this, if you aren't here or if you lose the handout, you do need to get it before you come back to class. Because if you're here, I won't accept it if you didn't bring it, okay? Yeah, so it pretty much goes like that. So I'm not absolving you guys of the responsibility of reading the syllabus, but it is true that at this point in the class, it's pretty straightforward. What does this word mean when I say I'm not absolving you of the responsibility?
Clearing.
Have you
Clearing.
clearing?
Yeah, it's like you're clearing
Yeah,
us from.
yeah, I'm not letting you go. I'm not saying you should not look at the syllabus. But many of you are finding that, yeah, you understand how the class works and you can get away with it. The big thing is if you miss, do be sure to get on there, because as you can tell on your grade sheets, I can always tell if somebody is missing a homework, a reading and writing exercise, and a vocabulary quiz. That means they were absent on a Wednesday and they didn't go to the website and pick any of the handouts. Okay? Not a big problem if you just do that once, but be sure that you're keeping track of your grade. Okay, so on this homework, like I said, I have a little trouble finding, this is the part where I felt that you guys needed more work. Remember I said that there's this chapter where she has everything in one chapter and I broke it out into like 6 weeks. So there's some part of it, I couldn't find a whole lot of exercises, so I had to make them up myself. So I'm kind of typing my own instruction. Okay, so same thing, read each paragraph and highlight and annotate it, and we know what that means now. Then write the topic and the main idea in your own words. Topic is a thing or things, main idea is a complete sentence. Check your work against these directions, okay? So I'm still getting homeworks where people are writing out the topic in a complete sentence or, well, not the main idea yet. But what usually happens is they get some main ideas that aren't complete sentences. So just check your work against this. Okay, so here's what it looks like. Write the topic out here and the main idea out here. Same thing we have been doing, except this time you're not choosing from one of Lorraine Fleming's sentences. You're making your own sentence. If it helps you, like I said, everybody on the midterm, most people did a really good job of those 4 little paragraphs. The one about the laughter, the one about the fireflies, the one about the, what was the other one? the idioms, and then something else, oh, the noise, the damage that noise does. If it helps you to think of this as just writing a one-sentence paraphrase, then that's good. That's what we have been doing. And if it helps you to think of that, right? That's all that is. Same thing here. Figure the topic and then write out the main idea as a one-sentence paraphrase, okay? Okay, let's look at this first one a little bit, since there is no scaffolding on here. Again, what do you see repeated? What jumps out at you? Sandra?
Michael Faraday.
Yeah, Michael Faraday. Okay, so somebody's name. And that's, yeah, as we've seen, it's always lucky when, then we can go back in and say, oh yeah, all these he. Okay? So do you see a reversal transition?
Yes.
Okay, so this is one of those very common paragraphs, and you'll find this in, especially in textbooks, okay, where they start out with one statement and then they turn it around and say, but this is true, okay? He was the son of a poor blacksmith and had very little formal education. But, so what we know now, and again, what I think has become generative for a lot of you, we know that this is a sentence we need to pay attention to, probably. Not always 100%, okay? What question does that sentence bring up? Despite his lack of formal education, his accomplishments reveal a brilliant and imaginative mind. Yeah, what good. See, and again, you guys can almost do this in your sleep, right? So now we know, without even looking at the rest of it, that we're probably going to be presented with a list of the accomplishments, right? And sure enough, right? Okay? So that I don't think you guys realize how much that is that you've learned since coming in here. I don't think you realize what an accomplishment that is on your end, that you can just glance at a paragraph and say, this is going to give me a list of this guy's accomplishments, okay? And that's half the understanding of the paragraph. This is the kind of thing that I'm saying, if you get to something and you can't do this is one strategy, looking for these key words, and you have that list of key words. That's one strategy. If that doesn't work, if you look at a paragraph and you see nothing repeated, you see no reversal transitions, you see no addition transitions, then go back to this. If this doesn't work, we're going to cover another couple of strategies toward the end of the semester that might work. Okay? But this is a pretty standard paragraph, as we've seen. Okay? So your list is going to be his accomplishment. You can almost kind of see how many things are going to be on the list. Okay, so now we go to read the paragraph. What was his first invention? What's the first thing I put on my list? Yeah, and that's one of these things that, you can't really paraphrase that. I want you to try to paraphrase, but that's kind of hard to say that any other way. Okay, here's why I'm going over this so carefully. What was his second accomplishment that this paragraph lists?
Magnetism.
Okay, he also showed that magnetism could be converted into electricity and constructed a dynamo. Okay, that's why this paragraph is interesting. That's why I wanted to go over this one. I read that sentence and my brain just shuts off. I say, okay, forget it. I have no idea what that means. Do we have any electrical engineers in here? Does anyone know what that means?
You just put instructor dynamo.
Okay, yeah, so here's the question, for the purpose of this assignment. Now, if you're in an electrical engineering class, you probably understand what's going on, and you'll be able to put that in your own words. But for purposes of this class, okay, I'm not asking you to understand exactly what that means. It's interesting that I think this is the first time we've seen a sentence where two of the words have to have asterisks, right? So that's right off the bat. Converted in this sense means changing to another form, and a dynamo is simply a machine that produces electric current. Okay? So he invented the electric motor, he also invented a dynamo. So, for our purposes, if I can get my N's and M's right, okay, that's very messy, but it can be messy, okay?
Would it be magnetism instead?
What?
Would it be magnetism?
Well, yeah, whatever you want to
What
write
do you
down,
define?
that's what I'm gonna write down, okay, with my
Okay.
limited understanding, but whatever you want to write
Whatever
down.
comes to mind.
Yeah, whatever makes more sense to you. But I am not asking you to totally understand what's going on here. But I think what happens to a lot of us is we see this wonderful paragraph that has all these clues in it that we've been learning, and then we hit that sentence and we just think, okay, forget this, I'm just gonna stop reading. And that's what I don't want you to do. I want you to go on reading, because what you're learning here is that this guy invented a bunch of important stuff. Depending on what you're gonna be tested on, you can go back and figure that out later, or ask your electrical engineering teacher or something. You know what I'm saying? What's the third thing? He also showed how magnetism could affect polarized light. What's polarized light?
Oh, I don't know. I was,
Okay.
I don't know what that is.
Okay, no, all right. Again,
Why the virus in one
they're
direction?
giving us a whole lot of definitions here. Polarized light is light that vibrates in only one direction. Does that help anybody understand what that is? No, doesn't help me either.
No.
Okay, so the point is, this is out of some kind of science or physics textbook, okay? When you get to your science or physics or electrical engineering class, you're gonna have to understand what that means. But if you sign up for that class, you probably will know what it means, okay? For right now, what we're looking at is this person had 3 really brilliant inventions, okay? So I'm going to write down here magnetism and polarized light. Right? So I've got a list of 3 things. What's the topic?
Michael Faraday's inventions.
Okay, Michael Faraday's inventions. Sandra, were you going to say something different?
Yeah, just same thing.
Yeah, Michael Faraday's inventions, Michael Faraday's accomplishments, okay? What is it trying to tell me about Michael Faraday's inventions? Now, this is something you haven't done before in this system, okay? What is the paragraph trying to tell me, Sandra?
For the main idea, it's trying to say that Michael Faraday's inventions, he invented 3 things.
Yeah, yeah. Michael Faraday invented 3 things, even though he didn't have formal education. Okay, you put that in there. He invented, you know, you can embellish that. He invented 3 important electrical things. Okay, you don't have to. The word, usually English teachers don't like the word things. If you're writing, in your writing, we want you to be more descriptive. But in something like this, you know, I want you to be a little bit more holistic. Write down what comes to your mind. If that's the word things, then that's it, okay? Does that make sense to people? So then this is a complete sentence. Michael Faraday invented 3 electrical things, even though he didn't have good education. You kind of want to get that idea in here, because we underlined this sentence as being the key sentence. Okay? Okay, so that's your homework. There are 9 of those, I think this time, yeah. They, as we've been seeing, they are kind of a combination. They're not real long, but they're getting a little more sophisticated. Some of them are straightforward. We know now that this is a pretty straightforward paragraph. One thing I am noting on people's, and this is a good time to say this. At this point, I kind of take everything into account before I mark something wrong, okay? If I can tell from this, that's a B. Is this not the title of this list? Yeah, that's the title of that list, right? So what's happening is some people, again, are making a whole lot of lists, but they're not indicating to me that they understand what those lists are, okay? So if somebody does this, and I can see from here that this is what the list is, this is okay. But if somebody is putting a list up here without any indication that they understand what they're listing, and they get this wrong, then I'm going to also mark this wrong. You see what I'm saying? So the fact that you get this wrong may depend on what you have down here. Because I wrote that on a number of people's papers that I gave back, that last homework. I said, you know what you've got here is the answers we got in class, the answers we discussed in class. But I'm not seeing that you were able to arrive at that, because this is not what it should be, okay? So it's kind of a combination, and just like we said here too, what about if somebody just put Michael Faraday here?
It's too big.
Wrong.
Would I mark that wrong?
Yeah.
Well, that's my next
You're not listening.
thing.
What did he do?
Okay, but this is the thing. What did he do is here. So that's
Okay.
another consideration. I'm just saying, this is a consideration. And when you get papers back and you compare them with somebody sitting next to you, and you say, wait a minute, I got that answer too, why didn't I get it right? It's not just this answer. I'm looking at everything. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, okay, just
Does that make
find
sense?
together.
So if you have the inventions and the education here, then and each one is different, then I might have accepted this, okay? Does that make sense? So I'm looking at it as a whole before I mark anything.
Some of it was invented, and I also saw the
Right.
idea of mine.
Right.
So Michael Faraday what?
Exactly, yeah, as long as it's down here. So that's what I was trying to say when we were doing the bison. I mean, you know, you could maybe even, for that, if you had that one on here, you could maybe even put bison, as long as you had the survival in the main idea, okay? Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and hand this out, and then, okay. That's the homework. Now, we have a vocabulary test. Now, on this vocabulary test, we have a couple of words that I want to look at, before I give it to you, because there's a couple of ones that are a little bit, well, they're different issues here. Okay, President Bill Clinton was famous for being, how do you pronounce this word? Anybody know this word?
Gregarious?
Gregarious, okay. He couldn't enter a room without shaking hands and hugging people. In short, he was a nightmare for the Secret Service. Okay, this obviously is what kind of clue? Remember we talked about this?
Contrast?
Is there a contrast word in it?
Example.
Example, yeah. And that is kind of a clue that if you've got a little story, this is telling us a little story. He couldn't enter a room without shaking hands and hugging people. In short, he was a nightmare for the Secret Service. Okay. If you know somebody who can't enter a room without shaking hands and hugging people, what adjective would you use to describe that person?
Outgoing.
Friendly?
No, what?
Friendly?
Friendly, okay? Friendly, okay? Somebody who's always, hugging people, shaking hands, okay? So that works. Here's my problem, and I think this may be why Danny said contrast, JD, is that this seems good to us, right? This person is friendly. Whoops, I don't think you're tossing it. This person is friendly, right? So why do they use the word nightmare? Is that what you were thinking of when you said contrast?
Yeah.
Well, it almost seems like there's two different things going on, right? He is so friendly, but yet he's a nightmare. Why is that a nightmare for the Secret Service?
Because they're not friendly and he is.
That too, right? But what is the Secret Service's job?
Protect the
To
president.
protect the president.
And he's too
So-
friendly.
Yeah, oh, there you go.
He's an easy
Okay,
target.
That's the clue. This is partly an example clue, and it partly asks you for a prior knowledge of the situation. So we know that the Secret Service is supposed to protect the president, and if you've got a president going around throwing his arms around everybody he sees, somebody's gonna pull out a gun and get him in the stomach,
Easy
So
target.
that's what's going on here. So if you just write down friendly, that's not exactly the whole idea here. It's what Ginger said, he's too friendly.
Too
He's
friendly.
overly friendly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He
Okay?
makes himself an easy target.
Yeah, he's undisciplined. He doesn't understand his situation and the fact that these people are
Like,
trying to
for
protect him.
example, like we have, John F. Kennedy, I almost called him KFC.
Yeah. I caught myself.
Well, anyway, like when he was in the car waving to everybody, he didn't really have
And you know
no
what?
protection.
And that was the
In the
problem.
middle of
That was
downtown
before,
Dallas.
exactly. It was John F. Kennedy that started the Secret Service worrying about stuff like this. Yeah, presidents used to be able to walk around on the street, but after that,
Because he should have been in a protective car or something like the
Yeah.
Pope or something.
exactly.
Because
That's
he's just
it.
waving and in a
And after
parade.
that,
He's
they
gonna
stopped doing that.
Yeah.
A president has never been in a motorcade like that, in an open car after John F. Kennedy. Yeah,
That is where he
exactly.
was.
Right. So that's another part of our prior knowledge, is that knowledge of that assassination and the fact that after that, they really cracked down on the president's security. And you can't just come up to him and hug him, okay? Does that make sense? So that's a little bit tricky. A lot of people write down friendly and I mark it wrong and they say, well, what's wrong? It's not just friendly, it's overly friendly, too friendly, okay? All right, the other one is an interesting, that I wanted to, actually there's two more words that I want to point out to you before I give you this. This vocabulary question is almost as long as some of these short paragraphs we've seen, right? I don't think we've seen one this long before. It says, I like Uncle Al, but sometimes being around him is annoying. He's always trying to teach my brother and me lessons about life. Every time he tells us about some event or experience, he ends it with the question, now what's the moral of that story? Then we have to tell him the lesson about life that we have learned. I don't know about my brother, but I'm sick of both the stories and the messages that go with them. Okay, so for this whole long vocabulary question, what's the answer? What is moral?
Restatement, like
Miss-
Okay, this is weird because it's got this big long paragraph, but it's a very obvious restatement clue back there.
Point.
Okay, but what's the restatement clue? I would
Message.
accept point,
Messages.
but yeah, there's this, and there's this. It's loaded with restatement clues, okay? So that one's pretty easy. Point, lesson, message, okay? So it's kind of weird that you had to read all this and then it was so easy.
So you
But-
put lessons and messages?
No.
No, pick one. Pick one. Lesson, messages, point. Yeah. Oh, and that reminds me, I keep meaning to fix this. This is an or. What I want you to do is choose this or this. Don't be writing a whole string of stuff. I need to fix that. I need to just wipe that out. I keep not doing it, okay? But here's the other thing. This is moral. The next question. How do you pronounce this?
Morale.
Morale. Okay, so just a kind of a heads up. Don't turn the page and say, uh-oh, here's the same word again. All right, I just wanted to give you a heads up on that one. Okay, so I'm going to give you that. And then you're going to come pick up the reading and writing assignment. And I just want to say, like I was saying here, I think a lot of this is becoming generative for you. But the last one, I think that's, no, the title of the midterm was pretty straightforward. But the title of the one before that, remember the one seat at a time? I don't want you to lose sight of looking at the titles, okay? I'm not grading you off. Again, I'm taking things as a whole. If it looks like you understood what the topic is, I'm not grading off if you didn't go through and highlight each time it appeared. If you didn't get the topic, then I'm going to tell you. Look for repeated words and phrases, okay? But when you have an unusual title, like one seat at a time, I would like you to kind of try to figure out why the author chose that, okay? What about this? What does that mean? Anybody know? Let me use it in a sentence. It's an idiom. We're back to our
Does it mean the
idiom.
same as
Okay,
on common grounds, is that?
on common ground, right, yeah.
Like
So,
same level.
yeah, if you say, well, we're having an argument in the office, but Susan and I are on common ground in this argument.
Same terms?
Yeah, on the
Same
same,
terms,
somebody said
or-
on the same page.
Or no, I
Another
say same
idiom.
terms.
Yeah, another idiom, we're on the same page, okay? Yeah, we're on common ground. We believe the same thing, or the same thing happens to us, okay? So I don't want you to just skip over titles, although some of them, like Cinco de Mayo, are pretty, you know, obviously this is about Cinco de Mayo, okay? Yeah, but do kind of give a question here. What does this mean, and why, you know, why did the author choose this title? What kind of common ground are they going to talk about, okay? And then on this one, you are not yet doing this. Remember, the homework is for next week. So you are still, you're going to write out the topic. Write the topic here. Here's all these clues. It's a thing or thing, not a complete sentence. Here's the test. Write the topic here. The topic is, this paragraph is about something. You can write out this paragraph is about if you want to, but you don't have to. Then back to the circling the letter of somebody else's 3 suggestions for the main idea. Remember that your main idea, you need to check these against each other. I had a couple of people in the last class where their topic was a totally different subject than their main idea. And I said, you know what? This has to say, the author is trying to tell me what about this thing? What is the author trying to tell me about the topic? The author is trying to tell me this, okay? So double check those against each other and make sure they're connected. All right? Okay. So, good, we're right on time. About 10 minutes to do the vocab quiz, and then 10 minutes for a break at some point, and then about 50 minutes to do the reading and writing exercise.